Paulus Bird has started this off, so I'll call the meeting to order. And welcome to the Shrewsbury May 25th Board of Selectmen meeting. As a preliminary matter, this is John Samia, Chair. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. John LeBeau.
Present.
Morris DiPaolo.
Present.
Beth Cassavant.
Present.
Teresa Flynn.
Present.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Mizikar.
Present.
Kristen Loss.
Present.
Valerie Clemmy.
Present.
This open meeting of the Board of Selectmen is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen is convening by Google Meet, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please be sure to press *6 to mute your device. This meeting will feature public comment. Please wait until I open the item for public comment and press *6 to unmute your device. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. The first item on the agenda is to approve bills, payrolls, and warrants. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Sorry, second.
Having moved and seconded, a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant?
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of May 11th, 2021. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Having moved and seconded, a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant?
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn?
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye, and also on the first one, aye. Next item on the agenda is announcements, reports. Board members, any announcements? I don't see any. I have one announcement that there will be the virtual Memorial Day ceremony, which will air on the Shrewsbury Media Connection on May 31st at 9:30 a.m. Hopefully next year at this time, we'll be talking again about having a parade, and we'll be back to the traditions that we've come to enjoy. That's the only announcement that I have. So we'll get on to the next item on the agenda, Town Manager's Report. Mr. Mizikar.
Good evening, board members. A few items for you this evening. First, with regards to the American Rescue Plan, staff continue to review the guidance that's been being issued by the U.S. Treasury. This information is really coming out piecemeal. We received additional information today from the MMA that we can expect our first allotment of the funding to be released in the next 30 days. The guidance that's being issued does seem more flexible than previous federal funding initiatives. However, the funds are still very restricted, and their use is nuanced and tied to the town's direct response to the pandemic in most categories. The broadest use continues to be water and sewer projects, and we're just uncertain at this point about the revenue supplementation. We're beginning to walk through what seems to be a rather complicated calculation, as we have to start with all recurring revenues or regular revenues received for fiscal year 2019 as our baseline. And so, we'll have to really understand how this works and whether debt service increases over the years would be counted or excluded. If they are counted, given the fact that Beal came on for fiscal year 21, I'm extremely concerned, or during fiscal year 20, I'm extremely concerned that we may have a total revenue increase year over year despite the impacts that we've seen in our economic elastic areas like local receipts. So we'll keep you posted on that. Hopefully I'm just being a little over conservative in my thought process. Second, training for the police on Lake Quinsigamond. Members of this Shrewsbury Police Department will be participating in basic crewman training to enhance their abilities and safety when patrolling the lake this summer. This is a class which is being provided to the town free of charge by the Massachusetts Environmental Police that will include both classroom work and field training on the lake. So residents on the lake may see officers undertaking maneuvers and going through their training course there. A bit of good news. The town has been recognized by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection in their annual Public Water Systems Award Program for our efforts in energy conservation with regards to the construction of the solar array, the home farm treatment plant. The award ceremony will be held virtually next Tuesday evening, and we can provide the board additional information. And finally, board members, you'll recall, out of an abundance of caution, on March 24th last year, you declared a state of emergency for the town of Shrewsbury. Ms. Casavan actually reached out earlier today reminding us that the BOS must take action when appropriate to rescind the state of emergency. We'd like your feedback on this matter, but the preliminary recommendation from staff would be to have the board take action at your next meeting on June 8th and rescind the state of emergency effective 12:59 p.m. on June 15th to coincide with the state lifting its state of emergency. That's the end of my report, Mr. Chairman. I will be turning it over to Ms. Loss to provide the COVID-19 update to the board this evening, and I just wanted to recognize her for her leadership in responding to the pandemic. She's had the lead on this since day one and has done a really good job in helping us navigate this complicated time.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar. Before we go to item 5, any comments or questions for Mr. Mizikar under items discussed during the town manager's report? Okay, there being none. Let's go to item 5, to the COVID-19 report. Mrs. Loss.
Great. Thank you, board members, and thank you, Mr. Mizikar, for those kind words. I greatly appreciate that. So if you go to the next slide, I just wanted to report to the board that since your last meeting of March 19th, we've seen an increase of cases of the number of 19, which brings us to a total of 2,964 positive cases. As you'll see in a future slide, we are seeing a great decrease in the number of cases, which is wonderful news to share with the community. As of last Thursday, May 21st, we are still in the green status. We have a 4.2 daily incident rate per 100,000, which is a decrease of 4.8 since the last reported, and a positivity rate of under 1% at 0.76%, a decrease of 0.89 since our last report. And we have reduced our reporting rate to every Friday as the case numbers have declined. So those who have signed up for a news flash or follow us on Facebook or Twitter will see a decrease in the number of reports. We're happy to report that there is no increases in deaths since our last report to you of March 19th. The one thing to note that is changing that we like people to pay special attention to is we are reopening town hall to the public on June 1st, which is Tuesday of this coming week. No appointments will be necessary. We do encourage, though, that if you'd like to speak with a particular department or particular person at town hall, you do call in advance, as we do still have people working remotely at some certain instances, or we want to keep the number of people at the counter down if we can to maintain social distancing. Even though the governor is coming in line with the CDC mask guidance, the town of Shrewsbury will require face coverings for all visitors and staff, and that's staff who are not at their desk sitting, not interacting with another person, to be worn. So please note that we still would require masks in all of the public buildings. The Council on Aging has been open for some time for outdoor activities. They've been running some exercise activities and other events. They will start opening for some indoor activities as of June 1st as well. And that can be shown in their newsletter, which has been mailed to residents that are afforded that mailing, as well as on our website. And as of June 1st as well, the library is no longer requiring appointments for patrons to come into the library to use those services, and more information can be found on the library's website as well. We are digging deep into the Commonwealth's reopening plan. Last week, the governor really changed the tune. At first, we were waiting for a reopening sometime in August, and he announced that all restrictions would be lifted related to COVID-19 as of May 29th, 2021. So that is this coming Saturday. So all industry restrictions will be lifted, capacities will increase to 100%, and gathering limits are rescinded. It's important to note that he has given leeway that if individual businesses or departments do still wish to have certain restrictions, that they are welcome to do so. So it's on an individual basis. So as you're moving throughout the community, you may see some businesses still require masks if you're not fully vaccinated, and other safety precautions. We will have adequate signage on all our town buildings, and town staff will be has been trained on these items that we are maintaining for the town buildings. And then as we talked in the town manager report, the state of emergency will be lifted as of June 15th. And we are currently reviewing what that means for town operations related to open meeting law, outdoor dining, and other items. And the MMA, the Mass Municipal Association, is also reviewing that. And we received word today that the governor's office has filed special legislation to be reviewed to alleviate some of those concerns, or elongate them throughout the summer months for this to be reviewed at a higher level to perhaps become law. And we will certainly update the board on those items as well. We're working very closely with staff on that. We're happy to report that we've been collecting vaccine data for our residents through the Central Mass Regional Public Health Alliance, and at least one dose has been given to 25,310 residents for the town of Shrewsbury, and almost 20,000 are fully vaccinated. And eligible populations are all residents 12 and over who live, work, or study in Massachusetts. And the Pfizer vaccine is still the only one available for 12 to 17-year-olds. We are hearing that there is some studies that Moderna may be coming out for this age limit as well. And we'll be getting that guidance out as soon as it's available. You will see on this chart that we are approaching limits that we were related back to March of 2020, related to number of cases and percentage of the total. So we are certainly coming down off of that peak and seeing the reliability of the vaccines related to the virus. Again, this is just a general snapshot that we show every meeting related to the positive case data. Only have had 4 cases in the past 7 days, which is 0.1% of the total cases, and that continues to decline. And then this is just the chart that we show you every meeting related to the number of cases. So all the way to your left-hand side is March of 2020, when we started capturing data related to cases. The middle peak is the November, December, January timeframe, and then we decline in the February, March, April, and now May timeline. So we're showing a lot of 0 cases per day, which is excellent. We do have a call into the state of when our cases no longer required to be reported to the Department of Public Health and the town. So we are still investigating that further. And this, again, is just a chart related to the percentage of the population vaccinated. 64% of the population has received at least 1 dose in Shrewsbury residents, and 49% are fully vaccinated. So with that, if there's any questions, we're happy to take that. And if not, we can move forward.
Thank you, Mrs. Loss. It's good to see all that information and the data breaking the way it is, and it seems that light is at the end of the tunnel. So that's good news. So thank you for your presentation. Board members, any questions or comments for Mrs. Loss?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mrs.
I
Flynn.
was, Kristen, I just wanted to understand, I understand it's well within the town's discretion to still require face masks, but can you just tell us a little bit more about that decision to still require it for employees?
Sure, I'll certainly try, and then if Mr. Mizikar has anything he'd like to add. Right now, at this time, we are not requiring our employees to show proof of vaccination. And we believe that it's in the best interest of our employees and the residents of the town of Shrewsbury that we all wear masks within the public buildings at this time while we're reopening. We have advised staff that at a certain point in time, which is in the near future, that we will reassess our situation. But we really didn't want to put anyone in a situation that they were uncomfortable with, that if they were wearing a mask, that they would be deemed unvaccinated and therefore not approachable. So we really took the position that if we all continue to wear masks, it's an equal playing field for all. I believe that there's better comfort level on the town staff side and on the public side. So we do hope that the public respect that and appreciate that stance.
It's helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Just one follow-up question related to what Teresa asked. Do we need to buy any additional PPE being open now to the public, or we pretty much have what we need?
Sure. So we have been collecting PPE through MEMA, which is the Massachusetts Emergency Preparedness Association, through our deputy fire chief, who is also our emergency management director. We have plenty of PPE. Today, we actually circulated extra masks and supplies around to all departments. So if there is someone who enters the building and does not have a mask, we have that to provide to them. And we do think we have sufficient stockpile for the duration. And now that the supplies are back up, we can request that if we feel that our supplies are getting a little bit low. So we are very confident that we have enough supplies at this time.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Great, we'll go to the next item. On the agenda, item number 6, it's a meeting with Donald Koski, Treasurer, and Kenneth St. Pierre, proposed manager of the Shrewsbury Sportsman's Club, Inc., 304 Boylston Street, for a change of manager and change of officers directors to their all alcohol club license. The applicant has submitted the town of Shrewsbury application for the change of manager and change of officers and directors. And additionally, the applicant had submitted the alcohol beverages control commission applications for change of manager and change of officers. The materials were in our drive. Any questions? Why don't I ask actually Mr. Koski to introduce himself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Don Koski. I had the fortunate experience to graduate with John. How many years ago was that? 20? Yeah. I've not been a member of the Shrewsbury Sportsman's Club for 30 years. Just during this whole COVID mess, we had a lot of problems here, just with people just actually not being interested because of COVID, and we had some other issues. So we formed an emergency e-board meeting and elected 5 new officers in October. I put that through at the Secretary of State site on the Department of Revenue. And at the same time in October, we elected Kenny St. Pierre, who's sitting with me right now, to be our bar manager. And, you know, I'm really happy about some of these restrictions being lifted on the 29th of May by Governor Baker, but we still need the Board of Health to come in here, so we're still just a little steps away from where we want to be. But that's a little bit about me. But any questions?
Thanks, Don.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board at all? Mr. DiPaolo.
I think the only thing that's happening is we're having a change of manager, right? All the other operations and hours and that are all staying the same. It's just change of manager.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And officers. Both manager and officers. Mr. Koski, how many members does the Sportsman's Club currently have right now?
Currently, we did pretty good gathering some people to pay the new fee. It's a higher fee because of COVID, and we had some old bills. We currently have 89 or 90, about 90 members.
Good. Great, thank you. Any questions from anyone else on the board?
People had a lot of stimulus money, so they were able to pay the extra fee.
Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Just a quick question to either Mr. Mizikar or Mrs. Leslie. Do we take this motion in 2 motions, or can we take it together for the change of manager and the change of officers.
I don't see a separate requirement to take it in more than one motion.
Okay.
So I believe you can take it.
Okay.
in the same
Okay.
motion.
So I'll entertain a motion that we approve the change of manager and change of officers directors to Shrewsbury Sportsman's Club all alcohol license.
So moved as it appears in the application.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded, and a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn,
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Donnie. Good luck.
Yes, thanks. Take care.
Take care.
everyone.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Bye.
Next item on the agenda, agenda item number 7 is a meeting with Angela Snell for an update on the Lake Quinsigamon boat ramps and season passes for summer of 2021. Good evening, Mrs. Snell. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I was here a few months ago talking about raising the fees at the state boat ramp. We've been approved, so I just wanted to give an update regarding the day-to-day management of the state boat ramps on Lake Quinsigamon and Flint Pond. We have a land management agreement with the Office of Fishing and Boating Access. They've approved the daily fee and a seasonal fee for this year. The daily fee is $15, and this year we will be implementing a new season pass, which will be $100.
Mhm.
The season pass can be purchased by mail or dropping off an application at Town Hall. It will not be sold on site. And there's a form to get an application is on the Parks and Recreation website on the town of Shrewsbury page. The main reason for approving the increase, the daily fee from $10 to $15 was to help cover the additional anticipated expenses resulted from providing a Shrewsbury police officer during peak hours at the boat ramp to check trailers and registrations and to assist with any other issues that come up. We've been approved as a pilot program for this year, and we will revisit this again with the state and see if we need to stay the same or if we need to increase it based on how this year goes. The Corazzini boat ramp is going to be staffed starting on this Saturday, May 29th. And then the Flint Pond boat ramp is going to be staffed starting on Monday, May 30th. And that's to allow time for new staff to be trained at the other location. There'll be an attendant at the Corazzini ramp on Thursday through Sundays and on holidays. And Flint Pond will be staffed on Saturday, Sunday, and holidays. We have police details will be scheduled with the Shrewsbury Police Department on a random basis throughout the week and on weekends based on the weather. You know, if it's going to be 90 degrees out there, we'll have a police detail there. And I've been working with Lieutenant O'Connor from the police department on this. Lieutenant O'Connor and I have also been participating in the newly formed Lake Quinsigamon Task Force. It's bringing all the law enforcement agencies together monthly to review schedules, coordinate the boat patrols on Lake Quinsigamon and any issues so that we can all work together. The other agencies involved in this are the Environmental Police, the Office of Fishing and Boating Access, DCR, and the State Office of Environmental Affairs. Shrewsbury Police has already begun patrolling the lake, and Worcester Police will begin this weekend, and the Environmental Police has been at the ramps, and they'll also be out on the water this weekend as well. The task force will be sending out a press release soon, giving more details on this effort. Any questions about the boat ramp?
Helpful information. Thank you. Mrs. Cassavant.
Hi, Angela. Just one quick question for you. So the season pass is residents only or anyone?
Because it's a state boat ramp, it's open to anybody.
So if I were to show up and I'm not a resident and I don't know about the season's pass and I have to pay the day pass, is that something that's apply to my seasons pass, or how does that work for people?
So we are probably going to do that for the first weekend. We're going to have applications available at the site that people can mail it in with their daily ticket. I'm not sure if we'll do it more than the first weekend.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. DiPaolo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Snell, I think the answer is gonna be what I expect it to be, but why starting at 8 and ending at 5? Why aren't there were a lot of people getting awake early, if they're fishermen for sure, 6-ish, maybe 7, and recreationally, as I recall, when I was on the lake, these people used to be launching boats after 5 o'clock in the summer and the weekends all the time. Is it just a manpower issue?
Yeah, it's definitely a manpower issue. And, in order for us to man it all day, we'd have to have like a whole nother department, a supervisor, and, I'm not sure we're there yet. So this is a step. If somebody launches at 6 a.m, though, and they come to the ramp when the attendant's there, they have to pay on the way out.
Okay. Thank you. But the police, the agencies will be on and off the lake at various times. So even though they won't be in attendance after 5 o'clock on the weekends, the police very possibly could be there, not to collect fees, but be there and also be on the lake anyways, right?
Correct. The Shrewsbury Police are also working on details from 3 to 11 on the lake. And then the detail at the ramp could be there till 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock. So correct, they will be there. And they also might be there on a Wednesday. If it's 90 degrees out on a Wednesday, they might be there as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's a good step in the right direction, I think. We've needed people on that lake, law enforcement, for quite a while. So it's good news.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I have one quick question. So as part of the process, Angela, when someone comes in with their boat or ski-doo, whatever they're coming to do to put it in the water, do they also have to show their registration? Is their ability to look at their paperwork, or it's here's the fee and I go in the water?
Right, that's a law enforcement official would have to do that. We cannot do that.
Okay. So a detail. Okay. Thank you.
And can I just give a quick update about Memorial Day?
Please do. Yes.
I just wanted to let people know that we are planning to honor and remember Memorial Day, a little different than we've done in the past, but a little similar to what we did last year. We are planning a virtual Memorial Day ceremony. Mark Serra from Shrewsbury Media Connection is helping us to edit various videos that we're collecting. We've gotten videos from the Lieutenant Governor, Representative Hannah Kane, Senator Moore. We're getting one from Chairman Samia from the Board of Selectmen. We have the Girl Scouts doing the Pledge of Allegiance, a performance from the Shrewsbury High Band. We have some messages from the local Veterans Council. And we're also have the Cub Scouts from Pack 114 and Pack 62. They're going around town and placing flags on all the veterans squares. Some of them have actually already been placed. And Boy Scouts from 227 are placing flags on the veterans graves at St. Anne's Cemetery. And the Girl Scouts and the park staff will be placing flags at Mountain View Cemetery on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. And also we worked with the Soldiers Memorial Commission to install a new veterans memorial for Captain Winthrop Avery from World War II. It's on Loring Street, which was his home street, on the Prospect side of that street. And thanks to the Parks Department and the Highway Division for helping us with that installation. And the Memorial Day ceremony will be on Shrewsbury Cable on channel 28 or 328 at 9:30 a.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m., and 10 p.m. And it is posted on the town website. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
Great. So thank you very much for coming and
Right. Thank you.
have a good night. Thanks. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing to review and act in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 252, Section 2A, with regards to the town's position on the town's aerial mosquito spraying program.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. LeBeau.
Mr. Chairman, due to my job, which involves me greatly in mosquito control on a statewide basis, I need to recuse myself from the conversation to avoid a potential conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. So board members, the default position under the statute is we will have aerial spraying for mosquitoes, but the other option is to take affirmative action to opt out of spraying. In this case, it's aerial spraying for mosquitoes, and part of that process involves a public hearing in addition to discussion that would have if we'd elect to opt out. So my understanding under the statute is to maintain the course, no action will be required. But if we would like to opt out after, we can have that discussion after opening up the public hearing and getting any feedback. And that's the action we'd take, is my understanding. So that is why this item's on the agenda, and the opportunity to opt out expires, I believe, on May 28th. Hence, that's why it's on our agenda today. Any questions at all? If not, what I'll do now is open up the public hearing. I'm not sure if anyone is on right now, but we'll open up the. Did you raise your hand, Mr. DiPaolo, or?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Typically, the aerial spraying has only happened when there's
Triple
E, something like that. So if there wasn't a big infestation or a big issue with Triple E, the state wouldn't be spraying like it did a couple of years ago anyways, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
So if there's nothing else, we can now open the public hearing to see if there's any feedback from anyone on the community. And if you are on the line and have any comments, please press *6. Any comments from anyone from the public? Going once.
Mr. Samia, this is Kristen Lass. I don't see anyone on the line.
Okay, thank you. Guess I'll take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Whoops. Mr. Mizuka, did you have something you wanted to say?
Did I miss the hearing being moved and seconded to be opened? I just think you may formally want to do that, Mr. Samia.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, have been moved and seconded. Roll call vote is required. Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn,
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. So we now have we're now in the public hearing sector, but I don't see anyone being on. We'll give another second, *6, to see if anyone wants to join, but I don't see anybody. So now I'll have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Having moved and seconded, roll call vote is required. Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn,
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. Motion passes unanimously. So now, board members, what would you like to do? As I mentioned at the beginning of this, that the action would be required only if we elect to opt out. If we want to continue the course, no actions required.
Mr. Samia,
Yes, Mrs. Lasso.
may I just interject with one point of information before the board deliberates? We did request information from the Central Mass Regional Public Health Alliance, where we receive our public health services, and they submitted a letter that's in your drive dated May 24th, that they are recommending that it's in the best interest of the town of Shrewsbury to remain in part of the state spraying program, as it's in the best interest of public health to reduce mosquito-borne illness and diseases in the community. We are hearing that this summer may be a heightened summer for EEE. So I just wanted you all to hear that information to take into your considerations this evening.
Thank you. So any thoughts from the board members?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mrs. Cassavant.
So personally, I would want Shrewsbury to remain a part of the state spraying program. The year that we were dealing with EEE was frightening. You really had to take serious precautions or not be outdoors at all. Last summer, I just recall outdoors was the only safe place except for EEE. So then there were no safe places except for just in your house. And I believe it was the state spraying program that really made a difference between the ability to be outdoors last summer and not being able to be outdoors. EEE is an extremely dangerous disease with the outcomes not being very good for those who become infected. And so I believe, even though there are, many that would think that there are harmful effects of the spraying, I really do believe that it is in the best interest of public health, and I am in favor of remaining a part of the program.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. DiPaolo?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I agree with Ms. Cassavant. I think the benefits far outweigh the risks, considering the severity of the illness when it's contracted. So I don't see any reason to opt out of it. Certainly not at this point.
Anyone else? I agree. I mean, you both said it well. I don't know why I would deviate from the course. As Mrs. Lassett talked about, the letter from Mrs. Boland, the deputy director, said it really well about, reducing mosquito-borne illness and disease in the community. And Beth, as you said, it's the ability to go out with all the restrictions we've already had living through the pandemic. Why not take one variable off the table that we're worried about when we can actually be out without a mask and then have to worry about mosquito-borne illness? That just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I agree with you, and seems like we have consensus here, and no vote is required as far as I understand. So we'll just continue with the course and continue part of aerial spraying. So thank you. So we'll go to the next item on the agenda under new business. The review and act on town manager evaluation. We'll actually push that out to our next meeting on June 8th. I ended up getting in my materials a little late, so I apologize for that. And they'll be compiled and ready for our next meeting on June 8th. Next item is item 10, May 22nd, 2021 town meeting recap. It was held on Saturday at the Field House at Shrewsbury High School starting at 8:30. Mr. Mizikar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I definitely appreciate the board support throughout the entire town warrant development process. We were much later in the year than we have been in past, and I think we still achieved a successful outcome despite also balancing the intense effort that was going on with the ballot questions discussions. From the meeting, I can report that all Board of Selectmen sponsored warrant articles, of which there were 39 of them, have passed to our satisfaction. So we appreciate the opportunity to be able to inform the public and them to make appropriate decisions. And then just a further report that two of the citizens petitions, those related to fluoride and potentially altering the Town Manager Act, were defeated. And the climate emergency vote was cast in the affirmative to declare climate and ecological emergency in the town of Shrewsbury related to climate change. So I'm very pleased with where we will start the year out with the budget and other items like the capital improvement plan. I'm happy to answer any other questions the board may have about how we move forward from here.
Board members, any questions or comments? I just have a couple comments. Mr. Mizikar, I just want to thank you and Mrs. Loss and the rest of the team. The presentation and answering questions during town meeting that were clear and concise and well thought out. So thank you. And I think it gave town meeting a clear path in terms of information necessary and how to decide on the warrant articles. So I want to thank you for your clarity, not only on Saturday, but also during the process leading up to town meeting. Also would like to thank Mr. Baldinger, Mrs. Snell, the buildings department for putting together the town meeting in the field house. Hopefully sooner rather than later, we're back to Oak and back to the old rules, but getting in the field house and putting all of those people and socially distancing everybody is no easy feat. So I want to thank all of them as well for all of their good work. But it was the last 2 years now with the bundling of articles and things, I think traditionally in Shrewsbury that we never thought we would do. There have been a lot of lessons learned from the last couple of town meetings that I think will carry forward and continue procedurally to the extent we can. And the meeting was over probably in about 4.5 hours and was done very efficiently. So I just want to thank all involved, as well as Shrewsbury Media Connection. I don't want to forget Mr. Sarah and his team as well for helping throughout the whole process and making sure that it was taped, everything was captured, and those who wanted to watch had that opportunity to do so. So thank you on that. If Mr. DiPaolo, do you have a comment? Oh, hand went up.
Yes, I did. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I've gotten feedback from several town meeting members that the pre-recorded review of the articles with Mr. Mizikar and Ms. Lass were very helpful. And a lot of the questions were answered in those presentations. So people said they didn't need to ask them at town meeting. That's not to say we shouldn't have discussion at town meeting, but I think the effort has paid off over the past 2 years. And I just want to thank both of you for doing that. And hopefully we'll continue even when we're out of this COVID era, because people get to see that information more at their leisure because it's run multiple times. So I just wanted to say, I think it's been a positive development, and I hope that you'll continue it.
Mr. Chairman. You're muted, but I know what you're saying because I can read lips.
Sorry, Mrs. Spencer. Thank you. Once a meeting, I guess.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I was just wondering, because I know that we had done a reduction of quorum to 100 town meeting members, but it seemed pretty busy in there to me. Does anyone know how many we had town meeting members attend?
We had to.
I believe it was 168.
That's great.
Good. Well, thank you. If there are no other comments, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is item 11, which is to
Mr.
review
Chairman?
and vote. Yes, sorry, Mr. LeBeau.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I was late getting back from recusing myself, but I have to ask, what happened to item 9?
We are deferring that to June 8th.
10%, I thought I heard.
Okay,
no.
I just completely,
That's
I just missed that completely. Thank you.
Yes. All right, on to item 11, which is to review and vote to authorize the Shrewsbury, the school superintendent to send the statement of interest form dated May 20th, 2021 to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for the Floral Street School roof located at 57 Floral Street. This is part of the procedural requirement in addition to the school committee vote, which I believe will be taken tomorrow night as a statement of interest relating to the roof on Floral that was its original roof from 1997. It's an asphalt shingle roof and apparently very brittle at this point, and that's what this statement of interest relates to. Are there any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move we vote to authorize the superintendent to send the statement of interest for the Floral Street roof.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn,
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item is on the agenda, number 12, to review and vote to authorize the school superintendent to send a statement of interest form also date, this one's dated May 21st, 2021 to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for the Oak Middle School windows located at 45 Oak Street. According to the statement of interest, there are 165 windows that are 41 years old, and they are weather stripping is failing and the windows themselves are no longer efficient. So that's what the statement of interest relates to. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. DiPaolo.
I just wanted to say, I was on the Oak Building Committee, and I didn't recall that we didn't replace the windows. I guess there were metal panels that were covering like half of them that were done in like the 80s. We took them down, and apparently all we did was wash the windows in that renovation. I was thinking 20 years or whatever, 20 something years. They didn't last very long, but man, I'll tell you, Shrewsbury knows how to get the bang for the buck. 41 years on windows, incredible.
I agree. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we vote to authorize the superintendent to send a statement of interest for the Oak Middle School windows project.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded, and a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn,
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to review and act on the address change request for parcel 6846 to be changed from 378 Maple Avenue to 400 Maple Avenue pursuant to policy 29. Mrs. Lass, would you mind giving some background on this?
Absolutely. Thank you. So a few months back, the Board of Selectmen reviewed and implemented policy 29, which outlines how a property owner would go about requesting an address change for their parcel. Subsequently, the property owner at 378 Maple Avenue, also known as Fairlawn Plaza, now known as Marketplace Shrewsbury, had requested to change their address from 378 Maple Avenue to 400 Maple Avenue. We as staff move forward through the policy process as outlined through the Board of Selectmen's policy 29, and first brought to the Board of Assessors Department that the address number 400 was a valid address that would be available to use. Subsequently to that, we brought together our associated departments that have addresses in their files and have worked on this property over the life of the property. And we have made a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to deny the address change request at this time. This property has been used as many different addresses over a period of time. And we feel that because this property is currently under construction, currently under permits, and has had that many properties in the past, that it would cause much confusion with E911, police and fire response, and a myriad of other developments throughout the departments within the town of Shrewsbury. So at this time, we do not recommend that this address be changed. As an entirely separate matter, we are working as a team to review the Board of Selectmen's policy, and we do believe that we would have some recommendations for you to enhance this policy to make it even easier for property owners to follow, as well as departments to follow the process to make a valid recommendation for your consideration if there is a future request.
Thank you for that explanation in the background. Board members, any questions or comments or thoughts on the request itself? The one thing that I noticed during the review of it, and the applicant put this initially, I think, the earlier part of this year, but the one thing that came to light is it started to look at policy 29. And while we owe the applicant an answer, ideally this evening, depending on where the board is that the policy itself looking at it may have a little more fine tuning. For example, reason for the request. Are there things that we want to put in there that aren't acceptable for an address change? And maybe depending where the board comes out, and interested in all your feedback, is marketing a purpose that we're comfortable with. For example, are there instances where we probably can't list everything that would be that would fall under this policy, but maybe things that we wouldn't deem acceptable as part of the policy. So right now that's just a thought that I have, that does this help instruct us looking at the policy about further refining it so we can start what is good and what is not a viable option under this policy. Mrs. Cassavant.
So, thank you. I always like to remember to put my hand down once I unmute. When I read through the memo from the building inspector, Ms. Sheehan, and just how complicated it is to change an address, like it's not as simple as just deciding to slap a 400 on the building. This parcel has many open building, plumbing, gas, mechanical, electrical certificates of inspection, annual life safety system reports, and zoning documents. All of that paperwork would need to be changed in order to comply for the public record law. So I just reading through that makes me think that there's a lot more to this than meets the eye at first glance. And I agree that we should not be rushing into changing the address right now because there's just too many implications.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Whether to, or whether the board is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Llewellyn.
Mr. The board not address change for parcel 6846 change 378 Maple Ave to 400 Maple Ave pursuant to policy 29.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau.
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo. Mrs. Cassavant.
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn.
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. So the board passes unanimously to not approve the address request change for 378 to 400 at this time. So thank you. Next item on the agenda is review and act on the proclamation request from John Travers for Sue Nurkowski and Joe Nurkowski on behalf of Troop 4 in accordance with policy 30. Hold on, I have some notes here. Both of these individuals were involved with the Scouts for almost 2 decades, and Mr. Travers is looking to recognize them for an upcoming event and has added the 4 to 6 recitals as we typically request in our request for proclamation, as we have in our policy number 30. So what's the pleasure of the board on this? Any questions or comments?
Nope.
Okay. If there not being any, I will entertain a motion with respect to the proclamation requests.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board to act on the positively the proclamation request and issue it as requested.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau.
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo.
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant.
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn.
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Item 15 is to review and act on to send a letter to the Special Joint Committee on Redistricting regarding congressional and state legislator districts. Apparently there was a hearing yesterday, which I don't know if anyone was able to make, regarding redistricting, but based on the latest census, they are looking at federal and state redistricting throughout the Commonwealth. And one of the issues that has come up with the 11 Worcester district relates to Shrewsbury. And as we know, Shrewsbury is currently represented by 1 state representative and 1 senator. And based on the numbers that were included in the report, Shrewsbury by itself is already over sort of that ideal district size. And the question is, what would we like to do about it, and how we'd like to echo our position with respect to redistricting and to the redistricting committee chair. So what this is requesting is to send a letter to the redistricting committee chair and other individuals that we would like to see 1 state representative and 1 state senator continue to represent Shrewsbury, given the size of the district is the authority that we're seeking to do. Any questions or comments or anything that I missed with what the redistricting committee is doing and how that could potentially impact us by changing us, splitting us up to multiple individuals? And given the population we have in Shrewsbury, I think we're actually on the high end, plus 870 or so people on the ideal district size. Anything? Mrs. Cassavant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I am in favor of sending a letter. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the hearing yesterday afternoon, but I think that we are accustomed to the representation of our 1 representative, State Representative Hannah Kane, and then also the 1 senator, Senator Moore. I know, like in our neighboring town of Westboro, they are represented by 3 state representatives. I just believe that Shrewsbury has been its own standalone district for so long, although Rep. Kane does cover 2 of the districts in Westboro, that I would really like to see that continued. I think that we have a very strong working relationship with Rep. Kane and Senator Moore, and it's always more difficult when you need to start working with additional people. So I am in support of sending a letter.
Anyone else? Mr. DiPaolo.
Clear, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Selectman Cassavant. I think we're big enough to have, at least in the rep for sure, our state rep just to cover us. And I do think it's important as far as coordinating at the state level, having multiple senators and multiple reps. Although I know in other towns they work really hard and they do as good a job as they can. I just think it's more effective to have a single point of contact. The other thing I would mention is, and maybe Mr. LeBeau recalls, but the last redistricting, I think it might have been the one before that, there was some talk by reps in neighboring communities who wanted to grab a part of Shrewsbury because it enhanced their district for whatever reasons. And we were obviously effective in preventing that from happening. And so I think we need to make sure the letter is, it advocates strongly to keep it, because my sense is that it probably will happen again. So it isn't a matter of just what we want. There are going to be other people who want something different. So I just think we need to make sure that we advocate for it strongly and let them know, let the state know why we want to keep our relationship or our districts the way they are.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mrs. Flynn.
Mr. Chairman. Oh, sorry.
I won't repeat what my colleagues have already said, just to say that I'm in agreement, and based on what I've reviewed thus far, I don't think it puts Shrewsbury at any advantage to have more than one state rep or senator, but does pose the risk of bifurcating our interests, if you will, to have more than one. So I too a letter in support of routine this one.
Thank you. Mr. LeBeau.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board send a letter to the Special Joint Committee on Redistricting regarding congressional and state legislative districts to indicate that the town strongly desires to have a single legislator for each of the legislative positions rather than to have it split up.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I guess the bird wanted to chime in on that vote also. What was I doing? A second or a vote?
Vote.
A vote. Aye.
Mrs. Castlegan?
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn?
Aye.
Mr. Samia? Aye. The motion passes 6-0 with the addition of Mr. DiPaolo's friend in the wall. Next item on the agenda, item 16, review and act to designate the members and positions of the following as special municipal employees pursuant to Mass General Laws, Section 268A, boat ramp attendant, instructional paraprofessional, non-sped, diversity, equity, and inclusion task force and police station building committee. Mr. Mizikar.
So board members, this is something that we do from time to time with individual positions, as we're proposing this evening for the boat ramp attendant and the instructional paraprofessional non-special education position. MGL 268A restricts employees, municipal employees, from holding more than one position, more than one municipal position. They can be exempted from that provision with proactive voting by the Board of Selectmen. So what we have for these two positions, honestly, right now is an individual who wants to serve in both of those roles. It's 2 part-time positions, does not exceed the standard of 37.5 hours for the town, so would not put us in a perpetual overtime situation, and just gives us flexibility to staff our positions when, as everyone knows, many folks are having difficulties hiring. With regards to the second 2 positions, it has been our standard practice that boards and committee members are designated special municipal employees, not because they hold multiple positions, although some do, but mainly because without such a designation, they're unable to speak in front of any other board or committee unless advocating directly for themselves. So, for instance, an individual on the DEI task force would not be able to come before the finance committee to provide public comment on various warrant articles, whether or not they're related, if they're related outside of the DEI. So that's why we do it to board and committee members. So it's 2 different reasons, really, but we would need an individual vote on each one of these positions.
Thank you, Mr. Mizikar. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. We'll need 4 separate motions. We'll take A through D separately. So if I could ask for a motion related to A, 16A.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move the board designate position of boat ramp attendant as special municipal employees pursuant to MGL 268A.
Second.
Having moved and seconded, a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant?
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn?
Aye.
Mr. Samia? Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move the board designate the position of instructional paraprofessional non-special education as special municipal employees pursuant to MGL 268A.
Second.
Have been moved and seconded. A roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant?
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn?
Aye.
Mr. Samia? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. LeBeau?
Mr. Chairman, I move to designate the members of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force as special municipal employees pursuant to MGL 268A.
Second.
Having moved and seconded, a roll call vote is once again required. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn,
Aye.
Mr. Samia, I motion carries unanimously. And Mr. LeBeau, please close us out.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board designate the members of the police station building committee as special municipal employees pursuant to NGL 68A.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, and a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant,
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn,
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. Next item on the agenda is executive session. We will go into that, but before doing so, I'll go through correspondence. Item 18 is an email dated May 8th from Brian Moss, 16 Ruthin Circle, reason Article 36, fluoride's linked to reduced IQs in children. He updated his presentation that he had originally presented to the board at our second meeting in April. Mr. Moss was the proponent, also presented at town meeting for Article 36. That's so noted. Next item is letter dated May 10th, 2021 from Keith Baldinger, Public Buildings Division Manager, to Jane Feister, Grant Coordinator, Green Communities Division, Mass. DOER, reason Green Communities final report. In it, he had listed a bunch of projects that had been done, including the Parker Road roof unit, top unit replacement, the high school field house by LED lighting retrofit, the high school commons LED retrofit, Oak Middle School gym, high bay LED lighting upgrade, Floral Street gym and the high LED lighting, as well as he also noted that the building operator certificate level 2 for Public Buildings Division Manager had been obtained. That's so noted. Next one, item email dated May 12, 2021 for Bernard Cahill, Town Planner, Ray Point at Hills Farm Estate, financial analysis and eligibility for 40B designation. Mr. Cahill was responding to a couple letters from Mr. Riley dated April 26th related to Point at Hills Farm, and Mr. Riley was questioning the eligibility of the project given the changes he noted in his letters. And Mr. Cahill responded back regarding feedback from Mass Housing, confirmed that the project's eligibility would not change. That's so noted. Next item is a letter dated May 13th, 2021 from Nick Repetka, Highway Division Manager. Street sweeping report dated May 12th, 2021. There were 340 tons of material that were brought to the landfill. Next item, so that's so noted. Next letter dated May 17th, 2021 from Barry Lorian, District 3 Highway Director, Mass DOT restriction of the left turns at South Street to Route 20. And he was responding to our letter that the board authorized me to send regarding no left turns at South Street, and he acknowledged that they would adopt that as an interim improvement while the project is under design. So noted. Next item is an email dated May 20th, 2021 from Sean Lazeri, Community Relations and Economic Development from Eversource, regarding Eversource urging customers to be of various scams, in which he provided various items to be aware of regarding if someone were to call you. And the last is item 24, email dated May 20th, 21 from Kevin Krasnecki, Central Mass Regional Planning Committee, 1 Mercantile Street, Suite 520, regarding the draft 2022 public meeting notice. So noted. That is it for the formal part of the agenda. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain that we go into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, or lease of value of real property, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 6.
Second.
Having been moved and seconded, a roll call vote is required. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Mrs. Cassavant?
Aye.
Mrs. Flynn?
Aye.
Mr. Samia, aye. The board will now convene into executive session pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, or lease of value of real property for Beal School, 1-7 Maple Ave, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board. Furthermore, the board will not convene back into open session. So now, thank you. So now, Jim.
All right, so we'll switch over